Hello, how you doing there? Oh, I wonder why you're back. Is it because I left you with a cliffhanger yesterday? I'm Tomlin's Nyback. This is 365 Days Towards Racial Change, day 223 on deck. Here we go. And now after today, we're going to get into some heavy topics and more some more academic uh, literature of Dr. Anderson and get a little serious for a little while. Get a little break from story time. Life isn't a story, isn't a fictional tale all the time, and so we want to get serious after today. But let's see, we're finishing up our long, extended series here at Uncle Tom's Cabin. Um, First, how's your mind? How are you thinking? Black, white, whatever color you are, and do you understand how the color of your skin impacts how you are in America? You know, humans have something about darkness of skin color or lightness of skin color, whichever way you want to go at that argument. You rarely hear it, the lightness of skin color. Or you hear about light black people, but not dark white people. Not as much. Anyway, I digress. But how are you thinking? How you get along based on the color of your skin? Is your color of your skin important? Does it matter? If someone's refuses you service, friendship, participation, is the color of your skin a part of that conversation but they're just not telling you? I know when I'm on public transportation and I'm the last person that anyone sits with when they're standing room only. Sometimes they still stand by making a real statement. That's about the blackness of my skin, people. It ain't about my sex because everybody's sitting man and woman around public transportation. It's not necessarily about my size. Plenty of large men on public transportation, but black men are a minority. And I even see, it's not just me who's the last one people sit with or don't sit with at all, but I'll observe other black men, on the same train, crowded train, and nobody sitting with them either. Very sad. Very sad. That's a poor, very poor way to determine, how you get along in the world and an environment. Looking at a person's skin color. That's not telling you anything about that person at all. Did you know that? I mean, get real. What are you learning? You know, don't watch movies and the evening news and stuff like that. Yeah, that they're going to highlight minorities doing and black people doing bad stuff. You know, but that's the media. That's the movies. Get real. So get with that. Uh, for white folks, how do you get along? What's your understanding of what's happening around you in the world, in America, and so on? Are you um, being realistic, honest with yourself about the space of privilege that you have and how you are getting along in America? How well you get along, your ease. You got any humility behind that at all? Very interesting to get your thoughts on that. Financial literacy is a big concern of mine. That you got to get beyond a bank account, understand your credit. It's too bad I didn't have strong mentorship as a young person, someone to have me reflect on longevity, power of money, color of my skin, stuff like that. I had a few here and there. It definitely didn't happen in the home. Both parents were too busy in their, both parents are working. Mother overworked because father uh, was content. He did his 8 hours or hour round trip, and uh, that was it. He made his money. Um, he ate, had his cigarettes and beer, got shocked by the evening news from the adjacent large city, and went to bed. That was his uh, life. That's what I remember most about my father. Mother worked same hours, lived closer, uh, uh, lived closer to work, but she had to put in another what, you know, when she got home, she had to put in another 4, 5 hours handling the children, running the household, keeping the peace, and who knows what the life like was in the bedroom, you know. So I understand. Well, I don't understand fully a black woman's angst in the home if she's under that kind of pressure. But the story wouldn't um, shock me at all, putting in that kind of time. And my mother was, wanted to had her own aspirations, music, art, things like that. All that buried underneath someone else's agenda. Very sad, what we do to each other in the world. You know, too bad the system didn't develop in such a way that people could pursue their own dreams and still support a growing society. Yeah, rocket scientists, mathematicians, teachers, musicians, visual artists, whatever. But so much it's the byproduct, it's the hobby, or when it should be the main staple of that individual's life. Financial literacy is important in that respect, how because you got to work extra hard. In this nation, art is actually in Europe they treat art in a whole different way. It's more of an integral part of everyday social life. It's much more in high regard than here in America. We got it all mixed up and wrong here in America. I read three. Let me introduce you to Dr. Anderson. We're going to get into his work tomorrow. Starting tomorrow, we're going to get into more of his work. I've read three of his books. He's all over YouTube, and he's easy to find. A Black History Reader, 101 Questions You Never Thought to Ask. Black Labor, White Wealth, Search for Power and Economic Justice. And Dr. Anderson's National Plan to Empower Black America, Powernomics. Find Dr. Anderson at powernomics.com. Behind me, you'll see the hashtag #US2 symbol. Find black women supporting one another, having support groups and stuff there. Check out Blag Enough, BLAGGENUF, for that experience, Black Facebook experience, kind of connecting, networking. Just World Wide Web. If you can't find your flavor, then do what I did. Start your own and see how that strikes you. And we are finishing. This is our last day of our extended story time here in Uncle Tom's Cabin. And encourage you to get the book. It's a fictional account of the slave institution, slavery in America. Central figure named Tom, but where we get introduced to black and white characters who are very complicated. Harriet Beecher Stowe is the author, and she's a very competent and elegant writer. We finished with a cliffhanger yesterday because St. Clare was stabbed. All of the conversations about abolition, slavery in general, caring for the slaves if and when they're emancipated, giving Topsy as a gift to Ophelia, he's giving news to Tom that Tom is going to be emancipated. Ophelia finally pushes St. Clare kind of over the edge as far as encouraging him to let all of his slaves go, with the disclaimer and conversation about how they'll be cared for and stuff like that. Talk about the future of an emancipated slave, most likely heading north and getting away from the South and those negative experiences and going to more hope up north, although the North still had was a hypocritical type of abolition, type of slavery, because the racism was still well and alive up north, just very much concealed and very subdued in the north. So he's they're having all those conversations, and we find when St. Clare's really contemplative and meditative about this whole emancipation business, the idea of his mother um, is presented in the picture, and she's that figure in his life that was the first white woman to begin St. Clare's education into the humanity of all people. She tried to instill in him, and what she did, she instilled in him the idea it's not just the white people who have values, desires, aspirations, creativity, and the like, a mind for business. All people do, and she's a white woman, and white women had it was a different dynamic. Didn't have much say, didn't vote, didn't have the liberties that white women do today. It's just an explosion. White women are fighters nowadays, and like, but not so in St. Clare's day, especially in his mother's day. White women didn't work and stayed at home and looked pretty all the time. And so his mother, unfortunately, married an aristocratic brute, St. Clare's father, and um, it's interesting, she bore twins, St. Clare and Alfred, but Alfred gravitated towards his aristocratic father. St. Clare gravitated toward his humanitarian mother. Very, very different ideologies going on there. And with that, so St. Clare she's planted seeds. Now the seeds were nurtured through his time with Eva, that 10 to 12 years with his daughter Eva, she passed on. And now there's fruit is being born. And Ophelia seems to be the one designated to harvest St. Clare's emancipation fruit. And that is first Topsy, good news for Tom, and now the rest of the slaves are on his list to be emancipated, set free, and all that. With the concerns of how they're going to get on and all that stuff. We don't have to rehash those arguments about responsibilities and conditions of emancipation. He already interjects a lot of argument about how cruel it would be just to let them go, just to send them off into the countryside. Uh, that's a problem. They need to be educated, almost protected. And it's one of Dr. Anderson's arguments. It's in his writings. I think I've heard it on his videos that the black people really, realistically, should be as a protected class of people in America, because the damage done to us and where we are at socially and economically as a group in America is just devastating, and we're just not recovering from this slavery institution of hundreds of years, beginning essentially toward the end of the 1400s into the early 1500s. With all that, St. Clair he's in a meditative mood, thinking about his mother. So he decides, he procrastinates. And it's it, it's a shortcoming of a lot of human beings. Get a project on. I used to have a good friend, and like every time we were getting ready to go out somewhere, he he'd want to cook spaghetti or play a game. And I'm talking like when we're about to go out, like our hand is on the doorknob as a group to go out, and the thing is, he was the one driving. After we make all this commotion, get dressed, and get ready to head out the door, he wants to cook spaghetti or play a game, watch TV, listen to music. It was a very odd mental click he had there. And, that's St. Clair, and a lot of us. He's in right there mentally, emotionally. Now we got to move him physically to put pen to paper and start facilitating this conversation, because apparently, he can give a gift. He can gift his slaves to someone overnight, just with a witness and everything. He can write that down in 15 minutes, 10, 15 minutes. To emancipate a slave takes a little longer. And so, he's feeling a little overwhelmed and doesn't want to get to it right away and stuff like that. Okay, fine. So he's going to go out. He's contemplating on his mother. He's heading out the door. Tom wants to go with him. No, Tom, I'm okay. I just need to be alone. So I'm sure he's thinking about his young daughter, his mother. He's looking up at the expanse on the way to the tavern. Walks into the tavern, and he walks right into the middle of a knife fight of two brutes in the tavern, and he takes it in the side. Now it's all drama and trouble. He's back. Some of his friends and some of the people have carried him back. He's very weak. He's lost a lot of blood. He's delirious, in and out of consciousness. He's definitely of no use in emancipating any slaves at this moment. He's trying to recover from this wound. Apparently, it's very grievous. The knife apparently uh, was very lethal kind of knife, a Bowie knife. So it's probably some type of hunting knife. Probably had serrations or teeth on it. Something to do some dressing, a fresh kill in the woods is my idea. Just a gnarly knife has really sunk into him. And I talked about how St. Clair's probably not a whole lot of very physically fit, And so he gets in there and he finds himself suddenly in this situation, but he doesn't have even the physical strength really to fend off the attack, because he's been um, laying around all his life being served. So that's one indictment against him about being stabbed up, is he doesn't go to the gym, so to speak. House is in uproar. He's stabbed, losing a lot of blood. It's a very oh poor situation, turn of events for Tom and the slaves. The physician comes, addresses the wound, but that's more. It's like lip service, you know. It's like having an amputation with vital organs exposed, and someone comes to you with a little band-aid. Uh, you know, that's the type of circumstance he's in, and the doctor addresses the wound. He just stops the bleeding, but there's probably the internal damage that's probably happened. He's already lost a lot of blood. He's not. St. Clair's not alert and responsive. He's failing. He's about to. Looks like he's about to cross over right behind his daughter. So um, we revisit Mr. Adolph is in the room, and Mr. Adolph is on the floor. He's inconsolable. Remember, Mr. Adolph is the guy he's the house slave that takes to wearing St. Clair's clothes and thinks he's running the house. So he's naturally busted up. He's very, he's attached, conditioned to be extremely attached to and love his master. We'll just leave him alone, leave Mr. Adolph on the floor to weep and moan. St. Clair calls Tom over. He says, "Look, Tom, hold my hand. I'm dying. Pray." And we can imagine, like, if we would watch Uncle Tom's Cabin play and watch this scene, then we want to get some kind of a Baptist-like ministry of thunderous prayer to pray heaven down on the situation and stuff like that. A lot of oaths and being very loud and stuff like that from Tom. And Tom does pray. The physician says, pray like a pastor. It's the flavor of what the physician tells Tom. And the chapter ends, it says, St. Clair says, my mind is coming home at last. And you would think, that it'd be a reflection on Eva and stuff like that, but more so, I think we find at the end of this chapter, St. Clair's actually had an extremely closer attachment to his mother, because his last words, he says "mother," and it's an exclamation point. So that there his heart is returning. There is the reunion. There goes St. Clair. Now he's crossed over. So we've had some tragic illustrations of death in these few chapters. Prue beaten to death. Prue's child died of starvation. Even on Tom's way down the river, slave women have jumped off into the water, probably drowned. We got Eva's death. St. Clair died. Well, it's just not our mortality rate. We're starting to stack bodies in this story. So we're going to take a little break here and see what happens. St. Clare had all these good intentions, but only one slave got away, so to speak. That's Topsy. We don't have any evidence that he ever put any pen to paper, communicated his intentions in writing to anyone. Ophelia and Tom know what his intentions were, but he didn't write it down. That should be something you think about as far as your last wishes, how you want your estate handled and stuff like that. Is if you don't write it down, then it's going to be up to and at the mercy of sometimes strangers, people who did not even know you, may be making decisions with your property, with your intentions that are totally against what your wishes would be had you lived and wrote it down. So that's something to think about for your loved ones, your community, family. Did you write down your intentions? St. Clare did not, and so we don't know. We're not going to find out for a little while. Get the book and read ahead, and you'll see. I have read the book. I know. But we got to get into some more. We got to get into some heavier stuff starting tomorrow. I should be back from vacation. I went out to the East Coast. Maybe I'll tell you a little bits and pieces about it when we get back into this for real tomorrow. But think about that. St. Clare, we had our hearts were really soared. The story had changed pace. Now there's emancipation of the slaves, at least a small handful. Yeah, but now the person who held that power in his hands just got killed. So what now? Think about the characters as we've developed them in the past couple days, and think about their response. Think about who's in control now. They did because the slaves are property. They belong to someone. Now that St. Clare's died, who's in control? Whose will is going to be done? He didn't write anything down. We're going to have to wait and see. Unless you get the book. I'm Thomas Myback. Thanks for hanging out with me. I should be back from vacation. We're going to get into Dr. Anderson's work starting tomorrow. Been great hanging out with you, and it's been a joy these 223 days. I'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.